back to my series of Star Wars reviews, reviewing every single Star Wars movie in the Skywalker saga leading up to the Rise of Skywalker. Later this year, I have already reviewed Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Didn't really like those movies all that much. But now I am here to talk about the final prequel in the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, and that is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
This is where the fun begins.
This movie came out in 2005, and a lot was made about Revenge of the Sith because it was supposed to be the final Star Wars movie in the entire saga, and that was the case until Disney acquired Lucasfilm in 2012 and released Episode 7, The Force Awakens, in 2015. So everybody was going nuts. This was supposed to be the final movie in the entire saga. This was supposed to be the final descent of Anakin's fall to the dark side and how he becomes Darth Vader. The story was going to be complete. This was also the first Star Wars movie to be rated PG-13. When this was rated PG-13 and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire came out the same year and was rated PG-13, I was like, oh shit! And it really deserves the PG-13 rating. So I'm going to be talking about this movie with spoilers. If you have not seen Revenge of the Sith, I suggest you don't watch this video because this is going to be a spoiler-heavy review of Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith takes place 3 years after Attack of the Clones. The Jedi have sent Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi to eliminate General Grievous, a leader of the Separatist army, while Anakin is being slowly subdued to the dark side by Chancellor Palpatine, who is secretly an evil Sith Lord, unbeknownst to the Jedi. This culminates in the rise of the Empire, the rise of Darth Vader, and the fall of the Jedi Order. Revenge of the Sith is a very, very good movie. It's a really underrated movie when you think about it too, because everybody's really just gonna hate on all the prequels, and I've already hated on a couple of the prequels. I know I really attacked Attack of the Clones. I did not like Attack of the Clones at all, but when it comes to Revenge of the Sith, when you look at this trilogy, this prequel trilogy as a whole, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, the dots that are connected in this movie that connect to the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and the overall narrative branching story in these three movies, I feel like that enhances this movie, and it kind of enhances the other two, which is why I didn't give Attack of the Clones a lower grade. It's how George Lucas connects the dots in this movie, and when you really think about it, yeah, sure, there could have been elements of the story that were done a bit better, but this is probably the best version we're going to get. This is definitely the movie George Lucas wanted to make. This is definitely the story he wanted to tell all along, and the way he connects the dots with these three movies in this narrative for Revenge of the Sith is actually pretty smart. It all makes sense in the long run. Everything George Lucas was doing in The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones comes to a head here. It all makes sense. Everything is connected. You can see so much foreshadowing in The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and it all just plays out beautifully in this movie. There's one aspect of the prequel trilogy that I failed to mention, or haven't really talked about all that much, and that is the music. John Williams' score in these prequels are one of the best things about the prequels, and The Revenge of the Sith is no different. I love all of his musical themes and his entire score throughout all of these. You have the tragic Anakin and Padme love theme at the end of Attack of the Clones because it sounds so peaceful and so calming, yet so tragic and so dreary that when that piece plays, you know where the story's going to go in the next one, which is this one. And there are so many themes in this one that are just so, once you hear them, you know they're Star Wars. Battle of the Heroes, the dun 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 dun, in the final lightsaber fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, instant classic. A Hero Falls, instant classic. Duel of the Fates even makes its return. It's been in all three of the prequels. It's great. I love the usage and where John Williams decides to use those musical pieces and those themes in certain scenes in those movies. It works so well in the places he uses them. This movie has a lot of great scenes in it too. The opera scene where Palpatine tells Anakin about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. One of the best scenes in the entire movie.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
Also, the Order 66 scene is one of the most saddest scenes I've ever seen put on film. Why did Conehead have to be the first Jedi to die? I know, Conehead has a name, and I should show him a little bit of respect. It's Ki-Adi-Mundi. But this joke of growing up between me and my cousin was that we didn't know his name, so we just called him Conehead, so I'm gonna call him Conehead throughout the rest of this review. Why did Conehead have to be the first to die? It sucks, because when Palpatine gets all deformed and messed up and he becomes the Emperor, his first order of business is, Commander, execute Order 66.
Commander Kelly, the time has come. Execute Order 66.
Yes, my lord. The first Jedi they kill is Conehead, and it's such a sad scene, but the way George Lucas stages this scene and the way he films it is brilliant. You see the camera focusing on the clone troopers kneeling down. You see their knees to their waist. You don't see their heads, and they're just kneeling down and they're shooting their weapons, and it really emphasizes how tragic this scene is going to be. And when they shoot Conehead down, that's it for the Jedi Order. That's the beginning of the end for the Jedi Order. But why did Conehead have to be the first one? He couldn't have been the whole... No, Conehead.
Tell me, how am I supposed to live without you? Now that I've been loving you so long.
If you or anybody you know has been affected by the Jedi Purge and you would like to donate to the Conehead Recovery Fund, please pick up your phone and dial 1-800-123-4567. You can get free Jedi training, you can get Ki-Adi-Mundi's lightsaber. Again, the recovery number is 1-800-123-4567. I hope you donate. Another great scene is right before Anakin stops Mace Windu from killing Chancellor Palpatine once the Jedi find out he's an evil Sith Lord, is that scene where Anakin and Padme are in two different places, but they're staring out the window at each other, unbeknownst to each other. And this is where George Lucas is really smart, and this is where I think he took some of the criticism from people telling him, no, you gotta have your characters speak with actions rather than words. This is where he shows his characters expressing their emotions rather than having them say dialogue. And that is Anakin and Padme staring at each other through the window in different places. He does a great job at mirroring those two scenes and cutting back and forth to those two so well. It's so well done. Those three scenes are honestly three of my favorite scenes. I've also really loved the lightsaber fight at the beginning between Anakin Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku. It's definitely a makeup for the lightsaber fight in Attack of the Clones, which sucked. It was basically like George Lucas being like, I'm sorry guys, I know that one sucked, here you go. And it was a way better lightsaber fight. And I love how questions regarding the Jedi way come into play in that scene, because Anakin chops off Count Dooku's hands, and then he's tempted by Palpatine to chop off Dooku's head. He's got Dooku's lightsaber and his lightsaber at his neck, and Palpatine's just staring at him. Do it. Because he and Obi-Wan are on a rescue mission to go get Chancellor Palpatine back from General Grievous and the Separatists. And so when Palpatine sees them fighting Count Dooku, and he sees that Anakin has Dooku by the neck with the lightsabers, he's just like, good, Anakin, good. Kill him. Do it. Anakin does it, and then he's like, I shouldn't have done that. It's not the Jedi way. And it's like, when he does that, it's like, holy shit. That's why this movie is rated PG-13. Is that even the Jedi way? I love how there's choices like that Anakin makes that really come into question whether or not he's actually following the Jedi code and whether or not this is the Jedi way. And let's talk about Anakin's character for a minute in this one. Anakin is a more well-realized character in this movie than he is in Attack of the Clones. In Attack of the Clones, he was an annoying, whiny brat, and George Lucas confused anger with whining. In this, you can actually see why Anakin turns to the dark side. There's so much at stake here for Anakin. He's always had that anger in him. It's portrayed in that scene where he kills Count Dooku, but he has to deal with the fact that his wife, Padme, is pregnant and he can't let the Jedi find out. He's dealing with nightmares about Padme dying at childbirth. He's got to deal with all that. He's He's on the Jedi Council, but he's not granted the rank of Jedi Master, and he doesn't understand why. He's frustrated about that. He looks up to Palpatine as a mentor, yet he doesn't realize at the time that Palpatine is actually the evil dark Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, and he is being tempted by Palpatine. He's got all of this confliction and frustration in him in this movie that he just feels like a more well-realized character. This feels like the character we were supposed to get in Attack of the Clones, and we didn't get that in Attack of the Clones. It's more realized here, and it's more fleshed out here in terms of character development with Anakin in this movie. And I gotta give George Lucas props for that, because he honestly could have just went down the road where Anakin was still just a whiny little bitch, and he didn't. I feel like George Lucas with this movie took fan criticisms to heart and was like, guys, you know what? I am sorry. Even though these are the movies I want to make, I understand where you're coming from with the criticism of Anakin Skywalker. I will do my best to give you a more well-rounded character, and I feel like he did that with Anakin in this movie. A lot of that also has to do with Hayden Christensen. Hayden Christensen's performance in Attack of the Clones is among one of the worst performances I've ever seen put on screen. He's not great in this movie, but it's definitely a significant improvement. I will talk about some of his bad scenes later on when I get into my negatives, but it's definitely an improvement in this movie. Compare it to Attack of the Clones. Just the opening half hour alone, he's a lot better. And another thing I really like about Revenge of the Sith that I also didn't get with Attack of the Clones is that I feel like Anakin and Obi-Wan finally have that brotherly bond. I didn't feel that in Attack of the Clones. I just felt like Anakin was just whining about everything to Obi-Wan, that he was whining that Obi-Wan was his master. In this, you can actually tell that they have that brotherly bond. They're bickering back and forth, they're saying jokes to each other. I really like that aspect of those two characters. I felt like there was actually something tangible there in terms of a brotherly bond. George Lucas captured that pretty well in this movie. Now, of course, this is a movie about the rise of the Empire, how Anakin turns to the dark side and becomes Darth Vader, and the fall of the Jedi. So we're gonna have all these cool Jedi scenes, right? We get not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but count them, 5 lightsaber fights. One of them is not really a lightsaber fight. You can kind of say it's just a brief lightsaber fight, and then it turns into a chase. But the others are definitely lightsaber fights. You have the Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Count Dooku fight at the beginning. You have Obi-Wan versus Grievous, which again is very brief, but I love how that ends. I just don't like how Obi-Wan is able to chop off like all of Grievous's arms like so quick, because Grievous has 4 lightsabers and to Obi-Wan's 1, and Obi-Wan just chops off like 2 of his mechanical arms like super quick. But I've always loved how that fight ends. Obi-Wan doesn't have his lightsaber. He manages to rip open General Grievous and seize his heart, and he uses the Force to grab a blaster, and he shoots General Grievous right in the heart, and he throws the blaster away, and he's like,
so uncivilized.
I've always loved that. I like when Jedi have to do stuff like that. When they have to use things that they're not used to using in order to accomplish their mission. And that was Obi-Wan using a blaster to kill Grievous. It was awesome. You had the Mace Windu versus Palpatine fight. You have the Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight at the end, intercut with another lightsaber fight. Wait a minute. Hold on. 1 second. The Anakin versus Obi-Wan lightsaber fight gets interrupted by another lightsaber fight? Where was that in The Phantom Menace when I want to see that. I don't want to see them going off to get the Viceroy. Young kid Anakin in a space battle. Why couldn't that have been in The Phantom Menace? Look, not to gush over the fact that the Jedi are finally awesome in this movie, but I was so happy that there were 2 lightsaber fights intercut with each other, and you have Duel of the Fates playing. It's such a great battle, too, between Yoda and the Emperor. They fight in the Senate. I love when Yoda just walks into the Emperor's office, and the 2 Praetorian guards, he just force pushes them like Yoda's the boss, because he is the boss. I'm going to get into some of my negatives now. One of those negatives is that Mace Windu versus Palpatine fight, because Ian McDiarmid, you can tell he can't use a lightsaber. Tell he's not a swordsman, because I don't know who trained him how to use a lightsaber, but this is what it looks like. That's what it looks like. That's Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine with a lightsaber in this movie. There's just some weird editing in that scene too. Like it's 4 Jedi against Palpatine, but one Jedi has his lightsaber lit and his head's all the way back here. Dude, the fight's over here. You're easily gonna die, and he's one of the first to die. It's funny. Also, when Anakin decides to turn to the dark side, after he kills Mace Windu, his turn to the dark side, that entire scene feels a bit abrupt and rushed, because 15 minutes ago, he discovered that Palpatine was the evil Sith Lord the Jedi were looking for. And he turned him into the Jedi Council. It was like, oh my god, Anakin's come a long way. This is a great character moment for Anakin. But then not even 15 minutes later, maybe like 10 minutes later, no rhyme or reason, he goes to save Palpatine from being killed by Mace Windu because he believes he can stop Padme from dying at childbirth. Which makes sense, but it just, the way it's done in the movie is very abrupt. There's no real build-up to him going there and turning to the dark side at all. Palpatine's really funny in that scene because he's like, the Jedi are taking over!
The Jedi are taking over! The Jedi are taking over! The Jedi are taking over! The Jedi are taking over! The Jedi are taking over! The Jedi are taking over!
He looks like he's on crack, and this is how we see how he gets his deformed face. He's shooting lightning at Mace Windu, and Mace Windu's deflecting it with his lightsaber. I've always been a fan of that. I've seen complaints that I was like, well, why wasn't it Force corruption? It is what it is, okay? It had to happen somehow. So I've always thought that that aspect was a little bit abrupt, and we never learn why Palpatine gives Anakin the Sith name of Darth Vader. It doesn't really make all that much sense, because Palpatine's just like, you will be called the Lord Vader. It's like, okay, where'd you come up with that logic? I don't know. Why? How did you come up with that name? Did you have that name in the back of your head this whole time? I really don't know. And also, Hayden Christensen's acting towards the end. It's mostly within the third act of the movie where I have a big problem with Hayden Christensen's acting. Right before he and Obi-Wan lightsaber fight, he has that whole spiel where he talks to Obi-Wan about how he brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to his new empire. His line delivery is not good in this entire section of the movie. Don't make me kill you. If you're not with me, then you're my enemy. You're with him? You brought him here to kill me! It feels like Attack of the Clones stuff, because up until that point, Hayden Christensen was actually doing a fairly decent job at his acting, and then that just dropped the ball. He went from a decent performance to okay, it's passable performance because of his terrible line delivery in that, and there's some dialogue in here that still feels like it's dialogue that was written for episode 2, and that is when Padme's brushing her hair and she's like, take me back to the fields of Naboo, where there was nothing but our love. I'm like, oh god. At least it's not at the forefront of the dialogue like it was in Attack of the Clones. It was unbearable in Attack of the Clones. There's only a little bit of it in that whole scene where she arrives on Mustafar with Obi-Wan. She's talking to him. She's like, Anakin, you're breaking my heart. You're going down a path I can't follow. I'm like, no, you will die. I was just like, no, don't say that. This is hokey dialogue. I don't like it. No, this feels like Attack of the Clones dialogue. But other than those few instances of some issues I have with Revenge of the Sith, this is actually a very cohesive movie. George Lucas told the story he wanted to tell. You gotta give him credit throughout this entire trilogy for sticking to his guns. Connects the dots in ways that are very smart, and he actually does some interesting things with the camera, especially that Order 66 scene and that scene where Anakin and Padme are staring out the window at each other from different locations. I feel like George Lucas with this movie actually took some of the criticisms to heart and tried to make as great of a movie as he could, and this is definitely the best of the prequels. This is the one I enjoy watching, and this is the one where I'm like,
This is where the fun begins.
the two others should have been like this. This is a legit good movie, and I'm gonna give Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, a B+. That's how good I think it is. I think this is a very underrated movie. I think people will go a lot lower with their grade when I think it should be a little bit higher. People underestimate Revenge of the Sith. I think it's a good movie. I think if you ask most people what their favorite Star Wars prequel movie is, they're definitely not going to say Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones. I think most of them will definitely say it's Revenge of the Sith. Thank you for watching my review of Revenge of the Sith. Stay tuned for more Star Wars reviews coming soon. Stay tuned for my Bond series leading up to No Time to Die. I already did a trailer reaction for No Time to Die. That is on my channel now. There might be a couple of James Bond reviews uploaded at the time of this video, so check those out as well. You guys are the best. I will leave my link to my website in the description below. You can find all my links to my social media accounts there. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.